Hi, so thanks for tuning in. In this video, we're going to be looking at one of the top reasons that Pdi'S fail their Part 3 ADI test. And that reason is poor fault analysis. So in this video, we're going to explore how to do good fault analysis to help you pass your Part 3 test. And if you're watching this and you're already an ADI, then this will help you with your standards check. So what I plan to do in this new series during lockdown 3 is to produce a video each week on a particular fault, and the idea is that you can join in and interact with the video and help you with your learning journey. So what I've done, if you look in the comments below, you can download a sheet. So let me just show you that. So you can get this sheet, this fault analysis worksheet, and you can take a fault and work through the process of analysing faults and coming up with a good solution to the problem. So if you click on that now, you can download that, print it, and the idea is you'll fill it out. So I've got an example of one I prepared earlier that I filled out with my hand scrawly writing on it to look at a particular fault and analyse it. So to sort of show you how it all works, what I want to do just now in this video is pick a fault, a common fault that you would have seen your pupils do, and let's work through using the worksheet, and hopefully you'll take something away from this and learn something. And like I say, the plan is to do a fault each week so you can tune back in and cover various faults. So if there's a particular fault that you'd like me to cover, leave it in the comments below. And if we get a few people wanting the same thing, then that's the next one I will do. And also please remember to like the video, subscribe for future content, because those likes really do help the channel. So okay, so let's take the first fault. Now I've been thinking of what I could cover in this one. So I thought of a common fault that you would have seen your pupils do. So the one I've picked is a right corner cut. So if you visualise the situation, the scenario, on a major road turning right into a minor road, they've cut the corner. Okay, so I'm going to be referring to my notes that I've made before this video on what I thought about that fault and how I'd analyse it. And we're going to work our way through this sheet. So what I'd like you to do in future videos is print the sheet, think of a fault, and you can do this for as many faults as you like, and it'll just really get you thinking about analysing faults and getting the right solution for it. So that when you watch one of these videos, we can review the fault and we can kind of compare notes to see how similar or different we are, and hopefully by doing that you'll all learn something and take something away, and it'll help you when you're preparing for your Part 3 test. So let's get started. So like I say, so in the first little box, so if you refer to your sheet as we're going through, that's what I'm going to be looking at through my notes, is the fault we've identified is a right corner cut from major to minor. So like a very common fault. So in the next box, this is to encourage you to just sketch that out. So sketch the scenario out as to what happens. And this is a very useful tool that you could use with your pupils when analysing faults, obviously when the car is stationary, just so that you're on the same page, that you're talking about the same thing, the same scenario. So it's very visual, and you can explain with a lot. They say a picture says 1,000 words. So that's a really good technique. Okay, so moving on to the next section, the risk. Let's think about the risk of cutting a right corner. So in the box it says write down the possible consequences, dangers of this mistake that you'll explore with your pupil. So my thoughts on this are that, you know, they're cutting the corner, so they're going to go in the new road on the wrong side. So driving on the wrong side of the road. This will have risks if there's oncoming vehicles or cyclists. Imagine a cyclist turning right to emerge out of the junction and we're coming in cutting it. So that could be, you know, very dangerous, cause injury to another person. So if it is another car, so we've got risk of collision, injury, damage, potentially dangerous. And also, just thinking about the risks, even if there wasn't anyone emerging out of that, let's say we've turned in and we've turned in a little bit early, so we've not really had good observations into that road, and then we're confronted with an obstruction, so we can't make our turn. We're going to end up blocking the main road, or there's a big bin lorry coming towards us that we hadn't seen, and so now we've got to back out of a side road from a minor road to a major road, which is an illegal manoeuvre. So the idea of the risk section is to try and just get you to think about the consequences of that risk. And of course, this is what you'd be sharing with your pupil, getting them to encourage them to think about this problem and the possible consequences, and to involve them and get them part of the solution. So just checking that's still recording. Okay, so the next box is looking at intervention. What would you have done to keep this situation safe? So in that moment where they're about to cut the corner, is there anything you could have done to prevent this? So being proactive before it. So maybe you could ask a question about, I mean, if you know that this pupil's cut a corner before, you could be proactive and sort of say, well, show me how you're going to position when you turn right into this road, for example. If they've just caught you out by surprise and just gone for the corner cut and they've never done this before, and you just, you couldn't have prevented it. So now they're doing it, what could you do? Verbal, you could say stop, steer, keep left, steer left. If there was no time or it was too risky, too dangerous to do that, then of course you've got your physical intervention where you could have pressed the brake, you could have gone to get the steering wheel to correct their steering so they didn't hit another vehicle or an obstruction in the road. If it was safe, let's say they're just cutting an open junction, you can see in it it's safe, and they're just going to have a little cut in that corner and not cause anyone danger, then in that situation I would allow it and discuss afterwards. So you're thinking about intervention, is it timely, is it appropriate, and if you're going to break the law, cause risk or damage to other people, injury to other people, then of course you have to take action like that and keep that car and everyone around that car totally safe. So always think about, in the intervention scenario, control the situation first, then educate seconds. We can always go back and talk about the whys and the analysis, which we're going to get onto next. So if we turn the sheet over, now we're going to look at the analysis. So this is the key part of this whole video, is to think about how we analyse faults. So in the analysis box, it says, what are the possible causes of this mistake? So think about what could have caused them to cut that right corner. Why did they do that? And list as many reasons as you can in the box. And I've suggested you do at least 10. So you really deep dive it, really analyse it. And of course, you would be doing this with your pupil, especially after safety critical, you'd have the wheels stopped. And you would analyse this and sort of dig deep into to why did they do this? So I'm going to list through what I've got. I've put 10 reasons that they might have cut this corner. So number one, the people thought it was okay, they've seen others do it, wasn't going to hurt anyone, so it's more of like an attitude thing. Number two, judgment. They didn't know when to steer, they don't know how to judge the point of turn. So that could be the reason. They didn't want to cut the corner, but they just steered too early and ended up cutting it. It's a bit like we see it all the time with pupils trying to drive forwards into a bay and they don't end up in a bay because they can't judge where to turn the steering wheel. So it could have been a judgment thing. That was number two. Number three, approached in the junction too fast. So if they're going in too fast, the turn is quite severe. So a common mistake or reason people make this mistake is to smooth out the bend. They're going a bit quick. So rather than have a really sharp turn, they think, oh, I'm going a bit quick, I'll turn earlier and I can carry more speed into that road. So it could have been approach speed too fast. Sticking with approach speed too fast, another reason number four, could have been, the reason it was too fast is because they were coasting. So pop the clutch in, it's maybe a bit of a downhill gradient, and the cars felt really fast going in, and for the same reasons they've decided to smooth out that turn rather than do a 90-degree steer in. So approach speeds, just, you know, if the car is too fast, we need to dig a little bit deeper and think, well, why was it too fast? What was the cause, the root cause of that car going too fast? Was it coasting? Was it just that they approached too fast and misjudged how sharp the bend was? Or, number 5, my 5th point, is that they're just in too high a gear. They meant to put it in 2nd gear, they've made a mistake, they've accidentally put it in 4th gear on approach, they brought the clutch up, maybe they put in a diesel car and there's a bit of an anti-stall going on and the car has just pulled them in a little bit quick. So it could have been that they've just picked the wrong gear. So you can just take approach speed there. We've had 3 reasons, by digging a little bit deeper, as to the root cause. And that's what this analysis is about. Get into the root cause of the problem. Because if we make assumptions or don't get to the root cause, we're going to go off on the wrong path with our remedy. Our remedy won't be the correct remedy for this particular fault as to why it happens. Number 9, they thought it was a one-way street. So the people thought it was a one-way street. Now if we just go back to my little picture, I will put this I'll put a link in the description so you can see this a little bit more clearly. I'll put it up on the screen now just in case that's not in focus. But just look at the picture, how I've drawn it. Notice there's no centre white line. The double give-way lines continue all the way across that junction. So, the people thought it was a one-way street. I wonder why they thought that. We're going to come back to that, I think, and analyse that a little bit deeper, dig that deeper on that one. And number 10, the people was planning to pass a parked car in the new road. So let's imagine, haven't drawn it on here, there's a parked car on the near side, on the left side, as the people's turning in, and they're thinking, well, I don't want to get close to that car. I've looked in, I'm just going to go round it. So I'm going to cut the corner deliberately to go round a parked car. Is a valid reason to cut a corner, as long as they've looked to make sure it's safe to go around that parked car. So there's just 10. You've probably thought of more. Hopefully you've thought of more, because the list could be endless as to, you know, what is going on in the people's mind at that point in time. There's many reasons why a pupil might make a mistake, and this is the most important thing. We need to find out the root cause before we move on, so that we get the right solution to the problem. So important. So now let's move on to the remedial action. So I said we'd sort of deep dive a little bit more into the number 9, that the people thought it was a one-way street. So remedial action. From the above list, select one possible root cause for the mistake and describe how you would fix it. So can you know, I just want to emphasize the point why it is so important. If we jump to conclusions, like this is such a common reason why people fail part 3s, standards checks, is because the instructor jumps to a conclusion about why that mistake happens, and then they go down sort of the rabbit hole on their little journey and fixing it. So for example, someone cuts a corner, instructor makes an assumption that the reason they cut the corner is because they couldn't judge it, for example. So they tell the pupil, oh, you cut that corner because you can't judge it. What we're going to do, the remedy, what we're going to go and do now is work on points of turn, reference points to help you with your judgment. Now, you can see there the reason that they thought it was a one-way street and that they cut it quite deliberately because they were just going to go into the centre of the road because it's a one-way street. If we start hitting the problem from this point of view that it's a judgment and a point of turn and reference points angle, then this is going to be the wrong solution to the problem. So if we think to the part 3 marking sheet, was this client-centered? Was this lesson client-centered? Well, no, because they're not really meeting the needs of the pupil. Was the lesson plan adapted to meet the needs of the pupil? No, it wasn't. So even though the instructor's demonstrating skills and knowledge and they've got lots of things in their toolbox to think, if they're very closed visioned and tunnel visioned and sort of jump to conclusions and go on their part on what they want to do, it's an instructor-led lesson, not a client-centered lesson. And this is why so many people fail, because something comes up that wasn't in the plan, pupil makes a mistake, as they do, and it's not dealt with properly. And this is where the needs are not being met and it's not client-centered. So, back to the remedial action box. So, okay, so the pupil thought it was a one-way street. What would I be doing now to fix that? Well, to make it client-centered, what we need to be exploring with the pupil is what the road markings mean and signs. So I'd be asking my pupil about what were the road markings, why did you do that, etc. Were there any signs? So once I've established that and explored that with the pupil, then I would then go and practice some right turns with the pupil and a nice lot of variety of right turns. What I'd really want to go and find is do some right turns, and hopefully one of them will actually be a one-way street where we can turn right into a one-way street and do what they did before when they cut the corner a bit. And this time it's okay because they can go in the middle of the road if it was one lane, obviously. So that would be nice if you knew somewhere in your local area that to go back and do that would be great. I'd really want to test them on their signs, so it would be good if I could find a turn where there's a no right turn, for example, and say, look, I'd like you to take the next available road on the right, and this time I want you to be particularly aware of signs. And this will build them on their need of their awareness of road markings and signs to help them plan this right turn. So lots of variety of turning right. Some junctions with centre white lines where they need to go round, some without, where the double give way line goes across, where they know it's two-way because of what we're covering in the lesson, and that they go in there correctly. So I'd have like open junctions, closed junctions, road markings, different signs on a post, lots of variety to really help learning take place. And of course within the MSPSL routine, we would be focusing on LADA, so the whole sort of theme of this next part of the lesson will be on look, assess, decide before acting. Because what they did before is they kind of acted. They wasn't aware, they wasn't looking, they weren't assessing situations, and they were making bad decisions. Okay, so now on to the next section, questions. So what questions would you ask the people afterwards? So they've just cut the corner, we're going to pull them up, we're going to have a safety critical, we're pulling up to discuss, to change the lesson plan, and we're going to start our analysis. Now if you think about that list of analysis, those 10 things that I put down, what we're trying to do with our questions is have effective questions so that we aren't assuming and telling the people what is in their mind. So I'd use a picture that we drew, and I'd ask questions as to why they did that, trying to find out from them what was in their head as to what they were thinking, what they were doing. Like, oh, well, I was worried about that dog was going to run out, so I went a little bit wider because I thought he was going to run out. And that would be effective questioning, because we would get to the root cause of this problem a lot quicker rather than go all around the houses. Because I know what a lot of you will say is, well, during the COVID or any part 3, if I'm analysing 10 points or more, that's going to take ages. Well, it won't, because the questions, if your questions are effective, you will get to the root cause straight away and can come up with a remedy quite quickly. Yeah. So the questions are really important now, and it's important you listen to your people as to what they're saying and don't make assumptions. So let's see what I put in the box here. So, so the questions I would ask is, with the picture, show me on this picture the position you took going into that road. So let them show me and draw that car, or I draw it for them. Show me the position you took going into that road. Another question I might ask, help me to understand why you took this position. Why did you take that course? See what they say. I thought it was a one-way street. If it was, what do these road markings mean? Oh, that means I'm going into one way. Ah, does it? Were there any signs? So throughout, if we're on the right track, our Q&A can get to this root cause quite quickly, rather than us guessing and making assumptions. I'd ask them, if I had intervened, do you understand why I intervened in that situation? Discuss the risks. What would you do next time? Can you tell me 3 possible risks of taking the course that you did? So they let them come up with the consequences. It's much better from a learning point of view to extract it from them than just tell. We've established they've cut the corner. A question I might ask, when might you take that position? Okay, so you've cut the corner, you've done that, you understand what you should have done, you understand why, but now can you give me an example of when you might actually cut that corner knowing it's a two-way road? And that might stump them, and they think, well, actually, I don't actually. Well, this is where the learning can take place. Then you can draw in your parked car, your obstruction on the near side. So, well, say if someone's parked near the junction, then could you now cut that corner? And now they're going to think, oh, actually, I'm not sure, can I? Well, if you looked into the road and make sure it's safe and you did your LADA, look, assess, decide, would you now turn into the road onto the wrong side, or into, you know, where effectively the white line would have been, to go around that parked car? And hopefully they're going to say, well, yeah, I'd have to. So, well, yeah, so that is an example of when you could cut a corner. But LADA comes first. And we don't just cut and hope that nothing's coming towards us on the wrong, you know, and we're on the wrong side of the road. So these would be the kinds of questions. Sort of dig deep with these questions. If you ask effective questions, you will get to the root cause of the problem. So you've analysed it and you've encouraged your pupil to self-analyse. Once you've got that done, you can move on to an effective remedial action, depending on what the reason was. So if it was coasting or looking at the gears, you know, there'd be totally different remedies, wouldn't they? So as an instructor, in your toolbox of remedies, you've got lots of things like how to fix steering, how to not look at gears, palming methods, pull push, all these things, reference points and all of that. But it's, you know, before you go rummaging around in your toolbox, find out and talk to the pupil what the reason, and then you can just get the correct tool. Efficient workman will get the correct tool first time and just get it fixed, and it will seem smooth and effortless when you're doing this well. So encourage you to print these sheets, take the faults. You could build up a folder, couldn't you? You could have print out lots of sheets, take a specific fault and go through this process, filling it out and analysing faults and thinking of possible solutions. So on this sheet, we're just thinking of one remedy based on one of the reasons, from the analysis section, we're thinking of one remedy based on that reason. But yeah, really here, because I've got 10 points to analyse, that would be 10 potentially different remedial actions, wouldn't it? So now this thing grows and cascades. But by doing this and going through that process, you're going to build up your knowledge, and hopefully when you're confronted in the car, when that's happening, the one thing I want you to take away from this video is to think, well, hang on a minute, let's not get into the remedy yet. Let's just find out what happens, why it happens, get to the root cause before going down your remedial action path. If you do that, you will be delivering a client-centered lesson rather than an instructor-led lesson. And you're adapting the plan to meet the needs of the pupil. So thank you for watching. So like I say, the plan is for me to do one of these videos each week during the lockdown now. I want you as homework to now go print off some sheets, start filling them out, and please in the comments say what fault you'd like me to cover next and I will cover it, and we can review and compare notes and discuss. Please remember to like this video if you haven't done already. Please subscribe for future content, it really does help, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.